O a ke a kahiko leo mea o papa hanau moko ka wahine. Hanau taiti kuhu taiti moe, hanau kia papa nui, hanau kia papa lani, hanau Hawaiʻi. Ka moku makahi apo, ke iki makahi apo a lao, o wake a lao, o kane, o papa o walinuu ka wahine. Ho o kauhua papa i ka moki. Ho I loli a maui, hanau maui loa he moku, I hanau ia he alolani. Heu I lani, hei ka palau mai aba. He nui mololani no kuno lono no kane ma lau o kanaloa. Hanau kapu ke kua koko ka a hea papa ia kanaloa he moku I. Hanau ia he punua, he naia. He keiki ia na papa I hanau. Ha'alele papa ho'i tahiti. Ho'i tahiti kapa kaua. Moi o wakea moi ia kaula wahine. Hanau o lana I kaula he makahiapo na ia wahine. Ho'i ia e o wakea loa ahina. Loa ahina he wahine moi na wakea. Hapai hina ia Molokaʻi he moku. Ha ina e ke kolea o lau kaula ua moi o wake ai ka wahine. O e nakalani ku ka haulili o papa, ho'i mai papa mai loko o Tahiti, I naina lili I ka puna lua. Hai manawa ino I ke kane o wakea moi a lua, he kane hou ia. Hanau o ahualua, o ahualua ke keiki moku, ke keiki makanalau nā lua. Ho'i hou aku no moi me wakea, nā ku papa I ka iloli. Ho'ohapu u papa I ka moku o Kauaʻi, hanau ka mawailua lani moku. He veveni I hau, he palena o lehua, he panina kaula o ka moku papapa, na papa ka haku a kea o lono. Mai ka wehe ana o kia laula I ka elelani I ora panui ma, a I ka holo ana I ka hiki, kahi o nā kupuna ke au I hala. A I Hawaiʻi, kahi o nā kupuna e ola nei, a hiki loa aku I ka piholo ana o ka lā I ka elehonua, ma Aotearoa. Mai ke kahi kihi a ke kahi kihi o ka pakipika, Yorana ia kako a pau aloha. Good morning, everybody. My name is Pulama LIMA. I'm a current PhD candidate in anthropology at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, studying under Dr. Patrick Kirch. And I have the privilege today to present to you some very, very preliminary results of my dissertation project thus far. Before I formally begin my presentation, I would, of course, like to take some time to, of course, thank the organizers of the symposium. Thank you to SIRAP for the invitation to present today. Thank you also to our fabulous translators in the back and also to the student workers for helping to make this convening both accessible and successful. Mahalo nui. The name of the chant I open with is called Melea Paku'i, or the Chant of Paku'i. Paku'i was a famed historian and orator, and also a great kahuna and prophet during the mid-1700s to the early 1800s. This chant is a meleko'i honua, a genealogical framework that temporally and spatially outlines the formation and birth of lands, organisms, gods, chiefs, and people of Hawaii. This chant in particular references the origins of the Hawaiian Islands and its people, crediting Papa and Wakea as their progenitors. There are many different meleko'i honua that reference the origins of the Hawaiian people, like the Kumulipo. However, I chose to preface and open my presentation with this chant, Melea Paku'i, for two reasons. The first being that it is customary when introducing yourself to a new space to acknowledge and recognize place, people, and genealogy. So by presenting Melea Paku'i, I covered all three. Mainly acknowledging the genealogy of the Hawaiian Islands, the birth of Molokaʻi, the island where I'm from, the one with the heart on the screen, and also acknowledging Tahiti, the place where we're gathered here today, and honoring that connection between our island groups. The second reason why I chose this meleko'i honua is because Paku'i, like myself, is also from Molokaʻi, and is believed to have resided at one of the four heiau, the religious monuments that make up the Manawai heiau complex, the focus of my project. Over the past several decades, the social evolution of Hawaii and its complex developments have been of distinct interest to archaeologists. While past models have provided understandings of the different factors acting upon Hawaiian social political evolution and complexity, gaps in this topic still persist. Research conducted on this subject has mainly focused on social political development of the larger Hawaiian Islands, while very little research has been conducted with respect to traditional governance and political organization of smaller islands like Molokaʻi. This project addresses these gaps, or hopefully will address these gaps, by analyzing the ways in which traditional governance and political structures reacted to intra and inter-island systemic change. This research also investigates the role of religious ideological power strategies as mechanisms of societal change and resistance. The overall goal of course, to develop a social history of Molokaʻi's governance and political organization. And to do this through 3 different objectives. The first being to construct a comprehensive chronology of Molokaʻi governance. While past attempts have been made to do so, these attempts have relied on radiocarbon dating of sites from the northern, western, and central parts of Molokaʻi, and also from East Molokaʻi, but more data needs to be collected. And also ethnohistoric accounts that are often paired with these radiocarbon dates are sometimes fragmented or decontextualized from sequential order, and or derived from mo'olelo or stories from the larger neighbor islands. The second objective is to understand how social organization and governance is reflected in and influenced by the construction of monumental religious structures and the relationship between religion, ideology, and governance in Hawaii. Lastly, the third objective of this project is to use the results derived from objectives 1 and 2 and compare them to existing arguments and models of political organization and governance of the larger neighboring islands to identify and examine the areas of overlap and or divergence of societal development throughout the Hawaiian archipelago. So to sort of contextualize the project setting, located in the middle of the Hawaiian island chain, Molokaʻi measures approximately 673 square kilometers and is the 5th largest island in the main Hawaiian or main island chain. Molokaʻi is often described as the last Hawaiian island. Unlike the larger neighboring islands, Molokaʻi was bypassed by the mainstream of political and economic development during the 19th and 20th centuries, and as such has been recognized as a cultural kipuka, or a refuge for the perpetuation of Native Hawaiian subsistence, culture, and religious beliefs, customs, practice, and governance. According to oral traditions like Melea Paku'i and other Mele Ko'i Honua, Molokaʻi was known for its ancient chiefly lineages, but it was more famed for its kahuna, its priest or expert lineages. So much so that kahuna from other islands would come to Molokaʻi to learn and train, as Molokaʻi was known as a place of ripened and powerful prayers. The people and culture of Molokaʻi are very distinct. We are very steadfast in our ways and very protective of our families, our resources, and our island. These are traits that make and keep Molokaʻi Molokaʻi. These traits, I hypothesize, are traits carried from the original settlers and chiefly lineages of our island. The earliest documented chiefly lineage of Molokaʻi is that of the Kamawawa dynasty. Kamawawa was a descendant of the high-ranking Nanaulu chiefly lineage of the first migration of chiefs to Hawaii. He was known throughout the archipelago as being a very fierce chief, fierce and powerful. And he also had a very strong aversion to people of the new migration, as they were known to be warlike and aggressive chiefs. Cautious to the arrival of the new invaders with their new gods, customs, and traditions, Kamawawa formed a league of native chiefs to defend the land and the resources of Molokaʻi, a trait that has continued throughout the history of the island. Throughout his administration, the islands of Hawaii, Maui, Oahu, and Kauai were swayed by the chiefs of the new migration and fell to change of ancient traditions. Molokaʻi alone had remained exclusively under native dominance, speaking volumes to the island's belief and reverence of the ancient system. While the Kamawawa dynasty lasted for just 1 century before marrying into new migration lineages, social political ideologies, these traits, I hypothesize, are driven by ho'omana, and thus should be analyzed holistically to develop social history chronologies. I see my time is running out. Archaeological studies conducted from the 1990s to the early 2000s on Molokaʻi contributed to the discourse surrounding short and long-term chronologies within Eastern Polynesia. Mark McCoy's cultural historical chronology of Molokaʻi in particular emphasizes the work done by Native Hawaiian archaeologist Kehau Abad and her method of anchoring oral traditions and mo'oku'ohau genealogy in time to reconstruct chiefly chronologies of the island. This chronology was the foundation for my project at the Manawai Heiau Complex. The Manawai Heiau Complex is located on the central southeast portion of Molokaʻi. The complex boasts 4 impressive heiau. They are at the top, Paku'i Heiau, Kalua Kapi'ioho Heiau, Pu'u'olelo Heiau, and Kohoku Kano Heiau. Considering the spatial distribution of the sites within a very narrow ahupua'a, The Manawai Heiau complex is arguably one of the most important archaeological complexes on Molokaʻi, and also within the island chain. Just to kind of give a background on the different heiau, this is Pu'u'olelo Heiau. It's the southwest heiau within the complex. It measures about 348 square meters, and it is composed of two different features, one a platform and the other an enclosure. This is Kalua Kapi'ioho Heiau. It's on the most northwest heiau located in Manawai Gulch. This is a very impressive heiau. It has a retaining wall of over 36 feet, and it ends in a stream bank. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, it is also possibly associated with Kapi'ioho, the son of Kuali'i and Kalani, Kahi Makaiali'i. This is Kahokukano Heiau. It's the southeast heiau located on the ridge dividing Manawai and Kahanui Ahupua'a. It's a large heiau, and it is referenced as a resident site of Kumuko'a, Hala'i, Mulehu, Kalani Ahi Kapa, and Ka'ohele. Kumuko'a is, of course, of Lesser Ali'i lineage and status. Also references to this heiau is Kalola and Kayakea. Paku'i Heiau is the most northeast heiau, also located on the ridge dividing Manawai and Kahanui Ahupua'a, just above Kahokukano. This is a very interesting heiau. This is the heiau of Paku'i, and where the prophet Paku'i resided. It was referred to as a pu'ukaua, or a fortress, and is referenced in many different mele. Mele a Paku'i is one, a Vanana a Paku'i, where the following lines are excerpts from the prophecy. She had a prophecy and stated, "Ha'ule kaleva, ha'ule kalani, ho'ale mai kale popopolo." A time will come when the ali'i will fall and be no more, and a time will come when the maka'ainana, or the commoners, will rise from the dirt and be restored. There's also a mele akuaki'i o Paku'i, talking about the different akuaki'i that were taken to the heiau of Paku'i when Ka'ahumanuma came throughout Hawaiʻi to tear down and destroy the heiau and the images. Sorry, I'm fast forwarding. Okay, so this is a very pretty picture of Pu'u'olelo Heiau in the forefront and Kahokukano in the background. This is taken by Stokes. And another view of Kahokukano Heiau and Paku'i right up above. And then from Paku'i Heiau, looking down at Kalua Kapi'ioho Heiau. So these are four very impressive structures within very close proximity. And so the fieldwork for my project occurred sporadically over a 10-month span. I actually started fieldwork just before the COVID shutdown. And that presented some challenges and also opportunities. Instead of having a team of people to help, I had at the time my 11-year-old son, Lono, and my husband, Nahulu, helping me in the field. And they wanted to make sure that they were acknowledged in this presentation. So thank you to my crew for carrying the heavy gear up the ridge, holding the stadia rod, and so forth. So documented all four heiau, survey, photography, GPS, did archaeoastronomical observations of the heiau to get orientation and positioning, and also conducted 8 test units, 2 per heiau. These are the results from Pu'u'olelo Heiau. Collected 29 charcoal samples. 5 of the samples were submitted for wood tax ID. 2 submitted for AMS radiocarbon dating. Also found lots of lithics, midden, shell, fishbone, volcanic glass at Pu'u'olelo Heiau. This is the sequence, the model data. Sorry, I'm going to zoom through this. Kalua Kapi'ioho Heiau collected 5 charcoal samples, 2 samples submitted for wood taxa, 2 submitted for AMS radiocarbon dating. Also found lots of lithics at Kalua Kapi'ioho Heiau. Here's the sequence. Kahokukano Heiau collected 38 charcoal samples, 6 submitted for wood taxa, and 3 submitted for AMS radiocarbon dating. Lots of lithics and midden, shell, faunal bone, also the sequence model data. And lastly, Paku'i Heiau, where we collected 51 charcoal samples, 14 of which were submitted for wood tax ID, and 3 submitted for AMS radiocarbon dating. Also lots of lithics, midden, and volcanic glass that came out of this unit. Here's the sequence. Oh, that's an extra slide. So what all of this said, I developed this timeline using McCoy's, sorry, I'm trying to find McCoy-Shorten chronological model overlaid with the cultural historic periods from Molokaʻi, overlaid with the sequence dates from Manawai Heiau, as well as other important historical events, including the unification of Hawaiian Islands by Kamehameha, also marking the time of Pakuʻi. And as you can see, the dates from the complex fall nicely within the chronologic models, the early phase aligning with the late expansion phase, and the late phase aligning well with the protohistoric period. One thing to note is that the early phase dates fall within the same time period where McCoy proposes a gap in chiefly genealogy and fragmentation of Molokaʻi's social-political system, with, of course, the decline of the Kamawawa dynasty. However, based on the recent results and data provided, it appears as if the island's social-political system wasn't as fragmented as initially thought to be. The new proximate data also aligns very well with oral traditions and other material evidence that suggests ultimate proxies like population growth and intensification of ag systems, of social evolution and complex development. Oh, I missed a slide. So next steps for this project, further looking through the ethnohistoric literature, Mo'olelo, Mele, and Mo'oku'auhau, to fill in the gaps of chieftainship on Molokaʻi, applying the archaeoastronomy data to adduce Heiau function as a possible indicator of identified religious ideologies, and of course, comparing these data sets against the larger neighboring islands to identify and examine the areas where overlap or divergence of societal development occurred, and Molokaʻi's role in that development. Mahalo.